Alright, hi everyone, I'm Tracy and welcome to today's video. So I have a new brand to introduce to you guys. So this brand is new to me and I'm guessing new to a lot of you guys because I didn't know about it. But the brand reached out to me a little over a month ago, maybe even 2 months ago, just asking if they can send their brushes and just get my feedback. So I'm not required to make this video or promote these brushes. I just wanted to put something out there in case you guys are interested in these types of brushes, and I'll go over each one individually and then recommend my favorites, tell you which ones that I think are really great. So I just wanted to say they sent me a handwritten note from the owner. Her name is Bree. These brushes are all Japanese made, natural bristles, except for I think this little precision brush, which is synthetic. But all of these brushes that I'm going to talk about are either goat hair or horse hair. So that's my understanding. So they have a few of like the horse hair, but most of them are going to be yeah, goat hair. And then I'll go over which ones I feel. They didn't say if it's a Saikoho, Sokoho, or whatever, but I'll give you guys my opinion of what level hair I think they are. So I'll give you guys my opinion on those. And they're going to be dirty because I just used them and I didn't want to wait too long to put this video up. And also next week they're having a Black Friday sale. I don't know what the sale is. I just asked the owner if there's any sales because of the holidays. So there will be something coming up shortly. All right, so I'm going to start with the largest brush and then work my way to the smallest brush. So the largest brush is the F10RL, and the lettering, I got an answer. The first letter is either F, E, or P, which is face, eyes, or precision. And then the next letter is round, domed, pointed, or flat, the shape of the brush. And then the third letter is S, M, L, short, medium, or long. And they're talking about the hairs. So like this long one is F10RL, face, round, long hairs. So this one, this type of brush, I have other ones to compare it to. But the thing is, I don't generally use a large powder brush like this. But if I had to compare it to other brushes, the Hakuhodo J509 and the Rephr 30 are the closest ones. So just mind you, I did not wash this one yet. I did try it without washing it, so that's why it's going to look a little smaller. But they feel very, very similar. I mean, see, the Rephr 30 might be a little wider, but the quality, the softness, I would say is identical. I can't tell even with the Hakuhodo. I think the Hakuhodo has more hairs, at least mine does. And the Hakuhodo is goat and synthetic, and this one is just goat hair. But they feel very, very similar. So I would say if you're looking at the J509 or the, also there's one, the J104, which is very similar except it doesn't have synthetic. I would say you could save a lot of money getting this one. And performance-wise, it perform the same. The reason I don't use brushes like this is because they're not very specific, and also for powder I prefer using a dark haired brush so I can see how much product is being picked up. So that's the main two reasons I don't use this type of brush. But if you are a fan of this big long powder brush, this one is absolutely I don't want to say identical, but very, very on par with the other two that I talked about. So that is the F10RL. And then the next one is going to be the F9RM. So the face, round, medium length hairs. And again, this is not a shape that I usually go for. In the demo, you'll see me using it to powder under the eyes. And also I messed up. I used a different powder that I'm not very fond of. So I didn't really like it the way it performed for powder. And then so I used my other by Terry powder and it worked a little bit better, but I don't think this is a good setting powder brush. And this is normally the kind of brush I would use for setting powder. Again, it's light hairs. So, you know, in that sense, I probably wouldn't use it for powder anyways, but I did use this at the end to do finishing powder and it worked fine for that. Not my favorite finishing powder brush, but I'm not sure what I want to use this for. This might not be one that I use, but if you do like this small flat top pinch ferrule brush, it's a totally fine brush. The hairs are in this one are very soft. This feels like Psycho goat hairs. And it doesn't taper really low like some of the like Chikuhodo brushes. It starts tapering right there. So it's not super domed. It's more flat, I would say. So that is that one. Now this is one that I would say is my favorite of the face brushes, and that is the F8AM. So face angled medium. Yeah, I think that's what it stands for. And this one is, again, like the other one, very soft. And this is comparable to the Hakuhodo J511. I don't have the J511, I have the G511, and the cut and everything is identical, except this doesn't have squirrel hair. And, you know, Japanese brush makers, they don't advertise, you know, what companies they produce brushes for until maybe later on. But these just feel very Hakuhodo-esque. So I'm assuming that Hakuhodo makes these. I haven't confirmed that, but that's my take on them. And I would say with this particular brush, I think they use their higher quality hairs because it is very soft. So not to be confused with the Rephr 4. It's much smaller. The hairs are much more fragile and delicate. The Rephr 4, the hairs are a little bit coarser. This brush is much firmer, and that's what makes this a great cream blush brush. But I would not use this one for a cream product. It's just, yeah, it's just too fragile and too soft. It's not super dense, but it's not super sparse either. And I think of all the face brushes for me, this is the one that I will continue to use for powdering. So I've used it to powder here. In the demo, I use it to apply blush and it works fine. It doesn't apply product very heavily. It actually applies very lightly, very similar to the Sonia G Lotus Detail Brush. So performance wise, I would say these two are identical. Just this one has dyed and undyed hair, but if you look at the design, size, and shape, they feel identical. So that is the little angled brush, and I am very fond of this shape brush, so I had a feeling I would like this one the best. So my favorite of all of the eye brushes is the largest blending brush. It's called the E1DL. So domed long haired. So this is the longest haired brush of the eye brushes. And this is generally not a brush I would use of, you know, made of goat hair, because I usually think this is better for someone with larger eyes, but I've been able to use this pretty much the same way as I use my Wayne Goss 3. Now the Wayne Goss 3 is no longer made. I don't think you'll ever be able to get this. This is one of my all-time favorite eye brushes. I start out most of my looks with this one if it's clean, and I use it to lay down the first shade and to do a final blend, and also to do the transition shade. And that's what I've been picking this one up for. And I think it's just the design is identical, and I think that is what draws me to this one. Also, like I have like the Wayne Goss 16 and the Hakuhodo G5522 or the B5522, which is similar, but it's made of squirrel and goat hair. But I think it's the cut and just the design of the brush that really reminds me of the Wayne Goss 3, just made of goat hairs instead. And I feel like for a goat hair brush, this one is very silky. And this one's been used quite a bit and it's been washed a couple times. So it's not as soft and flexible as the Wayne Goss 3, but it's just the shape and the way it performs, I would say, is very similar. Not an alternative, but this is the eye brush I've been picking up over all of the other ones, which is really surprising. But I would say if you have the Hakuhodo J146, this is probably the closest one to the Hakuhodo version. I don't have that one, but maybe if you have that one, you probably don't need this one. But if you don't have a large eye brush made of squirrel hair, I would say this one is probably a good one to have. All right, so now we're going to talk about the second largest of the eye brushes, and that is the E2RL. And this is a very classic blender brush with a pinch ferrule. And I would say if you wear eyeshadow, a brush like this is essential. It's perfect for doing a transition shade, for blending out, especially the outer V area. If you have like bigger eyes, you can probably deepen out this area really well. Also, you can do a final blend. And you can even do shimmers with this if you want like a lighter application of your shimmer or metallic shadows. And this is comparable to the Rephr 1 and the Hakuhodo J5523. I'll show them to you next to each other. And they feel identical. I mean, I thought maybe the Hakuhodo was a little bit silkier, but it's not. It works, I would say, the same. So if you're looking for like another J5523, or you want to try this one out, I would say this one is very comparable to that one. And a very solid brush, on par with those other two that I showed you guys. And then the next blending brush is the E3DM, and I'm so sorry I cannot find the Rephr 13 or the Hakuhodo J5529, which is what this is comparable to, but I would say it's very, very similar. The Hakuhodo J5529 is a little bit bigger, a little bit fluffier. So if you want maybe a very small detailed blending brush, this one will do the job. I used it today for the outer V area and to start out the shadow on the lower lash line. That's what I use a brush like this for. And if you have like smaller eyes like me, a brush like this makes a huge, huge difference. Even getting like the inner part right here, if you want to kind of add dimension right here on your eye, a brush like this is amazing for that. To blend out the lower lash line if you went a little overboard, or to just like smooth out this area, a brush like this is essential for that. And yeah, a really solid brush. Okay, now we're gonna talk about their like smaller, like really detailed brushes. And this is their, I think they call it a shader brush, but I use a brush like this for liner. It's the E4RS, and this is made of horsehair. And I have a lot of other brands with this style, except the ones I have are either Weasel or Kolinsky hair. I have a Bisyoto and a Hokoto that is very, very similar in design, except this one is made of horsehair. So this one is going to perform very similarly to, I'll link the other videos. I don't want to show too many brushes and get, some of you that are not as familiar, I don't want to get you guys too overwhelmed with all the different brands and everything. But I use a brush like this to lower the to line the lower lash line and the upper lash line. So if you have eyes like mine, you don't have a lot of lid space, and you want to line your upper eyelid, if you use a brush like this to darken up the lash line, I just highly recommend doing that versus using an eyeliner and just drawing a thick dark line. doing something like this looks so much more natural. Also, it doesn't close up the eye. It will open up the eye and allow you to like see the eyeshadow that you put there if you do wear eyeshadow. And I think this one works just as good. This one though is not as soft as my more luxurious ones. Like the Bisotto flat liner brush is my favorite, but you know, that one is going to cost a lot more. But yeah, I would say I'm not like terribly impressed, but I'm not disappointed. This one I would say is average. And the same with the pointed liner brush. This is called the E5PS. So this is made of horsehair, and it really reminds me of the Rephr 3. And if you look at the design, they're basically identical, except this one is goat hair and this one is horsehair. But this one isn't going to be like super precise the way the Rephr is. I'm not sure, maybe the way it's cut, but when I use this one, I tend to get a little bit of a thicker line, and so sometimes that's good, sometimes it's not. But it worked well today. I'm not drawn to this brush, but if you don't have a small pointed detail brush, I highly recommend getting one, either this one. A lot of brands do make a brush like this. I have the Hakuhodo one, which is called the G5514, but I ruined mine, so I'm not going to show it. But I would say these are very on par with each other, except this one is going to be more firm, not as soft. Yeah, this one's not as soft. This one is going to be a little bit more grippy. It's going to pick up more product. And this one is going to pick up a little bit less, but be more precise. So that's my experience between these two brushes. Okay, and then the last brush that I've actually used, and this one I would say is maybe my second favorite of the eye brushes. That is the P6RF. So this is a very small detailed shader brush. Very similar to the Hakuhodo G5513. So when you look at it like this, they look pretty much identical. But when you turn them on its side, you'll see the Rephr one is much thinner. So it has less hairs and it's just a finer brush. So I don't know if I prefer one over the other. They perform the same. I can't really tell the difference. So I would say it's on par with the Hakuhodo one. And it's brushes like these that just, you know, make me think that it's the same brush maker. Now that I'm looking really closely, I can see that the edges of the Hakuhodo are more blunt, whereas this one is more like, this one is softer when you touch it like that. This one is more of a blunt, but it's just thinner. So yeah, this one is a solid brush if you want to put shimmer on the eyelid, if you have like smaller eyes, you want to get in the inner corner, or you want to get shimmer like in the inner part of your eye right here, like what I like to do. Or just put shimmer on the lid if you don't have a lot of lid space. This is a really good brush for that. And then the last brush, this is one, I'll really briefly show it to you. I don't like brushes like this. I've never gotten the hang of it. This is the P7P. So it's a very fine liner brush. If you use gel liner, you'll probably like a brush like this, but I don't. I only use eyeshadow to line with, and I just prefer a brush like this to line. Probably my favorite, like a brush like this, is what I tend to line my eyes with. But you know, if you are really into gel liner, I'm sure this will work fine. It's a very fine brush. It will create a very thin, fine line. If you like a really subtle liner look, then I'm sure this one will work fine. It's just not my jam. So those are all the brushes that the company sent me. So thank you so much, Bristles, for sending me these brushes and making me aware of the brand. And yeah, I don't know what the Black Friday sale is going to be, but I would say bristles fits in the brush, where it fits in the brush world is probably more on par with Rephr as far as quality and performance. I forgot to mention, I really like the aesthetic of this. This is made of maple wood and it's got a silver ferrule. And I'm just very fond of this, this aesthetic. And I like the black lettering, and I love that it has the style on the brush, especially for me. And so very similar to Rephr, it's just a different aesthetic, and this brand is newer and it's, you know, a smaller company, an up-and-coming company. But I just appreciate the brand approaching me and offering me their brushes, and it's a mother-daughter owned brand, which I also like, and it's also based in Toronto, so it's a Canadian company, so even more so I love them. But I've been meaning to get this video up for some time and introduce you guys to these brushes. So I have a link down below and you guys can take a look, and I hope to get this up before Thanksgiving. I'm sure it'll be up before Thanksgiving so you guys can see this before the sale starts. And I think that's gonna do it. I'm really trying to get more content up, but I guess maybe I'll explain just the way I am. It's often hard for me to film and to put out quality content if I don't have something that I really want to say, or I don't have a topic that I'm very passionate about. Those videos just don't come out very good. So that's part of why there's a little bit of a delay sometimes. So it's just, I guess, the creative, like creative side sometimes gets blocked, and I've been feeling that a little bit more recently for some reason. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you learned a lot about the brush company and these brushes, and hopefully that helps you guys make better decisions if you're looking for new brushes. All right, that's it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Bye.